Good morning, everybody. To those who are watching in the morning, good afternoon to those who are watching in the afternoon, and good evening to those who are going to be watching in the evening. Welcome to KPR Snapshots, knowledge in capsulized format. So we're going to give you these tiny, powerful balls, right, which we call capsules. These are going to explode for you in the form of knowledge, right? So we're going to give you snapshots, that is broad overall perspectives when it comes to specific important current affairs sorts of issues, right? One such issue is that of India and Central Asia, which we are going to look at today. Now, I'm going to begin with this quote by Noam Chomsky, who says, "The world is a very puzzling place. If you're not willing to be puzzled, you just become a replica of someone else's mind." What does this mean? It simply says that the world of international relations is in dynamic equilibrium, right? And you have to be puzzled by it. So I invite you all on this journey to be puzzled by this intriguing world of international relations, especially if you are aspiring future IFS officers, though it is also very useful strategically for budding IPS, IRS, and other service officers. So why is this India Central Asia issue right now important? If you have been reading newspapers, you would have seen 2 points. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is about to travel to Central Asia for 2 back-to-back meetings focusing on Afghanistan. The first meeting, which is here, is going to be with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO ministerial meeting in Dushanbe. Now, where is this Dushanbe? It's in Central Asia, and we'll look at it in the coming slides. Second, he's going to have a meeting with the Central Asian countries in Tashkent, which is also one of the capitals of a Central Asian country, which is a few days later, right? Now, who are going to be the important players in this meeting? Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, Afghanistan President, a key player in international relations right now, Ashraf Ghani, and US Special Envoy Salmai Khalilzad. Now, why is he going? It's because of the American announcement under President Joe Biden that they will be withdrawing unilaterally from Afghanistan, and that democracy is now in the hands of the Afghani people, right? This brings us to the importance of Central Asia as a strategic geopolitical location in the sphere of international relations. Why is Central Asia important? It's often referred to as the pivot or the heart of Eurasia, right? Now, it's called the heart because just look at this map for a moment, right? If you take the globe, it's right at the center, right? It's right at the center of the globe. Now, one of the most important valves of this heart is what we call Afghanistan today. And with American withdrawal, well, the Americans claimed that they were maintaining democracy in Afghanistan. Now, with their withdrawal, it has a bearing when it comes to security as well as strategic calculations for countries worldwide. And India being a victim of terrorism, it is of utmost importance to us, which is why we can see the External Affairs Minister going for 2 back-to-back meetings very quickly. So now, what is the consequence of the sudden withdrawal of the Americans? It's going to result in uncertainty overall in the region as well as in the globe. And thus, Central Asia, which surrounds Afghanistan, is going to be very key. Now, Afghanistan, remember, is a part of South Asia, right? So what are the countries that constitute Central Asia, right? Just look at this slide. It is the 5 stans or the Panch stans. It's easy to remember. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Right? Say that again. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. Right? Now, this grouping of 5 nations was and is a part of a larger nation grouping called the CIS countries or the CIS states, as you can see here. And these CIS countries are called the Commonwealth of Independent States. And these were all the countries that came together to form the erstwhile or now defunct USSR. Right? USSR broke down, as you guys know, with the fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989, and completely dismantled in 1991. And it exists today as Russia. And the territories which split, right, are now called these other various countries, right? So let us look at the map from a prelims perspective. Prelims perspective la irundhu idu romba mukkiyam. these are the various CIS states. இந்த CIS ஸ்டேட்ஸ்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னா அர்மீனியா அசர்பைஜான்ட்டு கீழே 2 கண்ட்ரீஸ் இருக்கு. அது ரொம்ப கரண்ட் அஃபேர்ஸ்ல வந்து நம்மள தொந்தரவு பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கு. இதை வந்து we will look at it in our next episode. Like what is the conflict issue there? What is this Nagorno-Karabakh issue? Right? So we shall look at that. Right? Now let's come to Central Asia because this is our focus right now. You can see the 5 countries. There's Kazakhstan, the largest. Adu keela Uzbekistan, adu keela Turkmenistan, adu keela Afghanistan. Afghanistan being part of South Asia. Afghanistan konjam mela, you have Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. So you can see it is the heart. Why is it the heart? Westla fulla Middle Eastern countries, West Asian countries irukku. That is Iran, Iraq. North la pathina European countries. It is a pathway into Europe through Russia. Right? So it has access to Europe. Right? In the pakam east la pathina it has access to China and therefore India. Right? So this makes the Central Asian countries the heart, rightfully the heart of Eurasia. Right? Now I'm just going to tell you the broad convergences between India and the various Central Asian countries, after which we'll look at the specifics. Now in terms of energy, the Central Asian countries which have the Hindu Kush ranges as a part of them are richly endowed, right? And in types of multiple sorts of energy. There's hydrocarbons, there's gold, there's copper, there's metals, there is hydroelectric power, right? Natural gas, so all kinds of energy, right? And also richly endowed with metals. So we have, for our energy security, they are a part, they become very important. We have, because we have to now diversify our energy sources. நம்ம வந்து US மேலயும் ஈரான் மேலயும் சவுதி அரேபியா மேலயும் மட்டும் நம்பிட்டு இருக்க முடியாது. So that is key. So we have convergences over there. And அவங்களும் வந்து அவங்க பாப்புலேஷன் ரொம்ப கம்மி, அவங்களுக்கு அவ்வளவு எனர்ஜி நீட் கிடையாது. So they also need a place to sell. Right? எக்கானமி பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் அப்படிதான். Central Asian countries or marketல the Indian goods are highly demanded. For instance, மேகியா இருக்கட்டும், பாலிவுட் ஃபிலிம்ஸா இருக்கட்டும், நம்ம தமிழ் படங்களா இருக்கட்டும், வாட் எவர் இட் இஸ், எஸ்பெஷலி நம்ம பழைய காலத்து படங்கள் which had the communist message like Raj Kapoor's Juta Hai Japani, Mithun Chakrabarti's Discourse Dancer, and all these were huge hits in USSR, Russia, and therefore in the Central Asian states as well. Right? அதே மாதிரி இந்தியன் ப்ராடக்ட்ஸ்க்கு ஜென்ரலாவே அங்க வந்து டிமாண்ட் நல்லா இருக்கு, especially when it comes to the cultural angle. Right? Because there is a certain cultural connect, which is the economy is in many ways driven by familiarity and culture also. Right? And they have their per capita income is generally higher than that of Indians, and they can afford more of our products. So therefore economically they become very important. Third, we have the cultural point, which is it was a part of the old Silk Route, right? The ancient Silk Route, as well as what we are looking at today as the OBOR or China, which is trying to make a modern Silk Route, but somewhat different, this time more power driven as compared to the older Silk Route, which was more driven by an organic kind of globalization. Now this ancient Silk Route பத்தி நீங்க நியூஸ் பார்த்திருப்பீங்க. ஆப்கானிஸ்தான்ல பாமியான் புத்தாஸ் இருந்திருக்கு, நிறைய புத்திஸ்ட் ஸ்க்ரோல்ஸ் சென்ட்ரல் ஏஷியன் கண்ட்ரீஸ்ல இருந்து கிடைக்குது. அண்ட் அஃப்கோர்ஸ் சென்ட்ரல் ஏஷியால வந்து இஸ்லாம் கம்ஸ் ஃப்ரம் டர்க்கி, அண்ட் தே ஹாவ் அ வெரி யூனிக் மிக்ஸ் ஆஃப் புத்திசம், ட்ரைபல் கல்ச்சர், as well as Islam. Right? For Mongolia, which is not a part of the Central Asia per se, but north of Central Asia la vandu pathina Buddhism has a very strong influence. Right? So it was a part of the old Silk Route which connected India with Europe. Right? So these are the broad convergences. So now what are the divergences? Primary divergence always is geographical. Right? The problem is we don't have access to Central Asia that easily. Why? Because நடுவுல பாகிஸ்தான்ட்டு இங்க ஒருத்தர் இருக்கான் தலைவலி, இந்தியாவோட தலை மேல ஒரு தலைவலி இங்க. ரைட்டா? இப்போ இங்க பாகிஸ்தான் இதை பிளாக் பண்றதுனால how are we supposed to access these people? அதனால தான் நம்ம பர்ஷியன் கல்ஃப்ல சாபாஹர்ன்ட்டு ஒரு போர்ட் போட்டுட்டு இருக்கோம். பட் நம்ம வந்து அது ஸ்பீட் இனஃபா பண்ணல. அதனால வந்து லாட் ஆஃப் தி அதர் கண்ட்ரீஸ் ஆர் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் இரிட்டேட்டட் வித் அஸ். இங்க இருந்து நம்ம பர்ஷியன் கல்ஃப்ல சாபஹார்ல இருந்து ஈரான் மூலியமா ஆப்கானிஸ்தான் ஹெராட் ப்ராவின்ஸ் கனெக்ட் பண்ணி இங்க இருந்து we can access the various Central Asian countries. Central Asian countries access பண்ணோம்னா we can go north straight into Europe. So this is our advantage, right? So geography has been a challenge. We are taking steps now, though not fast enough. Second, infrastructure. Because of the geography, infrastructure போடுறது ரொம்ப கஷ்டம். அது ஃபுல்லா மலைங்க, Hindu Kush mountains, which is why they're also very rich in resources, hydroelectric power as well as the various metals. But The problem is it's very difficult to put railways, roadways in such high and difficult terrains, and you need big money. And India, of course, doesn't have the kind of capital surplus, right? Which is why China becomes a very key player, which is my next point. That is the great game. And are we seeing a new scramble for Central Asia, right? I don't really think it's a scramble, because what is happening is China is having its big money, debt trap diplomacy, is buying land, oil fields left, right, and center from Central Asia. And Central Asia mostly being sort of authoritarian regimes which are highly corrupt, end up just giving away their land and hydrocarbons to China, right? And their population is, again, if you look at it, very low. So there is no sort of mass mobilization because the democratic process has not set in. So these are some of the problems or the divergences that we have with Central Asia. Now that we have seen the broad snapshot, let's zoom in and look at the specific countries and our relationships with them. Now, when it comes to Kazakhstan, are they favorable to India? Yes, in most issues, right? When it comes to, as I said before, energy, you know, they're very rich in uranium. We've set up a uranium bank with them for our own nuclear self-sufficiency, nuclear power, right? They also are very rich in oil, natural gas, hydrocarbons, metals. So we have a lot of relationships over there. Culturally, it has been it is a productive relationship, because like I said, they look upon Indian movies and Indian culture with a certain degree of fondness, right? In terms of science and technology, India has a lot to offer to them. ஏன்னு கேட்டோம்னா அவங்களுக்கு அந்த level skill level and expertise கிடையாது. They need people, right? So India can actually help them in that case, right? And educationally, we have several ITEC, right? ITEC programs, right? Which give scholarships to Central Asian students in India. You can in fact see a lot of them in Pune, Maharashtra, in those areas, as well as JNU in Delhi. So அந்த மாதிரி நிறைய இருக்கு. But where does it get tricky? As I said, on the broad points that I repeat agum: infrastructure, geography, and what we call the China card, right? The thing is, India and the geography infrastructure over பண்றதுக்கு சாபஹர் மாதிரி reports சீக்கிரமா போடணும், சீக்கிரமா டெலிவர் பண்ணணும், அங்க எனர்ஜி வேணும், இன்ஃபியூஷன் வேணும். But India, because of a certain kind of bureaucratic delay as well as red tape, we can say, what is happening is China is scoring there because he delivers fast and he delivers big. He traps them, that's a different issue. So some points where we interact with Kazakhstan, we interact with them in CICA, which is called the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which we looked at, and we will look at in much more detail in some other video, and the United Nations, of course. So Kazakhstan is the second largest source of multiple resources: uranium, chromium, lead, zinc, and top 10 sources of coal, manganese, copper, iron, and gold. Kazakhstan also has the 11th largest proven resources of both oil and natural gas, and mining accounts for 61% of industrial output. So you can see it is a heaven of raw material for which India can use to spurt our own economic growth. And of course, we do military exercises with Kazakhstan. From a prelims perspective, this is called Prabal Dostik. இதுக்கு பேரு Prabal Dostik. Right? Current affairs பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ரீசெண்டா செகண்ட் மீட்டிங் ஆஃப் இந்தியா சென்ட்ரல் ஏஷியா டயலாக் நடந்துச்சு டிஜிட்டல் வீடியோ கான்ஃபரன்ஸ்ல டியூரிங் கோவிட் டைம். இது எப்போ செட்டப் பண்ணாங்கன்னா 2014ல பிரைம் மினிஸ்டர் மோடி வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் சென்ட்ரல் ஏஷியா பக்கம் நிறைய பார்க்க ஆரம்பிக்கிறாரு. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி இட் வாஸ் லார்ஜ்லி இக்னோர்ட், ரைட்? ஸோ 2014ல கனெக்ட் சென்ட்ரல் ஏஷியா அப்படின்ற ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராம் கொண்டு வராரு. ஸோ அதுக்கு அடியில் இந்த டயலாக்ஸ் நடக்குது, ரீசெண்டா நடந்துச்சு. நெக்ஸ்ட் கண்ட்ரி தஜிகிஸ்தான், தி கேபிட்டல் பீயிங் டுஷான்பே. Tajikistan is very important because we have one of our strategic air force bases outside India, the only strategic air force base outside India in Farkhor. It's called the Farkhor Air Base, and they're also very rich in hydroelectric power, right? And their food habits are very similar to a lot of the food in North India. So there's also cultural unity, right? A certain cultural familiarity, right? So anga vande Tajikistan is one of the more important and relevant countries for India. Uzbekistan, capital being Tashkent, நம்ம பார்த்தோம். அவர் போறது ரெண்டு countries, ஜெய்சங்கர். துஷான்பே தஜிகிஸ்தான்ல இருக்கு. உஸ்பெகிஸ்தான் எங்க இருக்கு? தாஷ்கெண்ட் எங்க இருக்கு? உஸ்பெகிஸ்தான்ல இருக்கு. உஸ்பெகிஸ்தானை பத்தி you would have studied in modern Indian history. M.N. Roy, Tashkent Declaration, well, being a part of the communist movement, right? And he made, after that, he comes back and makes one of the first demands for the Indian Constituent Assembly. Okay. Uzbekistan is very rich in metals and natural gas, which is primarily gold, copper, and natural gas, right? Another thing, they have been pioneers with India to build various infrastructural projects to connect the countries called Ashgabat and INSTC, which we will look at in detail. INSTC standing for International North-South Transport Corridor. Okay. Recently, we had military exercise with them called Dastlik in Ranikhet in Western India. Next, we come to Kyrgyzstan. Probably, you can say in terms of energy, trade, and all those things, the least important, because we only trade in like chemicals, pharma, and energy and the but the problem is politically they have been the most supportive of us. For instance, they give us UNSC support as well as Kashmir issue la namla support pannanga. Whereas the other Central Asian countries, they have large Islamic populations and they were a bit wavering. Okay. Kanjar military exercises we conduct with Kyrgyzstan. And finally, coming to Turkmenistan, capital being Ashgabat, which is also the name of the Ashgabat project, multimodal project. They are very rich in hydrocarbons as well as energy, and this is the most west country from India, which is it's more touching the Middle Eastern nations, right? Ashgabat corridor is important, and Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, TAPI pipeline important. But right now, for all intents and purposes, it has been stalled because of Pakistan and India issues and tensions that has been stopped, and there's not much progress there. So let's look at Ashgabat agreement from a prelims perspective. You can see it is a multimodal transport corridor and has rail, right? It's going to involve roadways, railways, etc. So you can see the countries which are involved, right? And you can see the INSTC, International North-South Transport Corridor, this orange line. You can see Mumbai lerundu directa Chabahar boat, Bandar Abbas port Molima poi, you can go straight to Europe itself, right? Through the Caspian Sea route. Okay, and you can also go through Turkey, right? Through Turkey, you can access Europe itself this way also, right? இங்க வந்து ஈஸ்டர்ன் யூரோப்புக்கு ஒரு லைன் போகுது, இன்னொரு லைன் வெஸ்டர்ன் யூரோப்புக்கே நீங்க டைரக்டா போய் கனெக்ட் பண்ணலாம், ரைட்? ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் தி அட்வான்டேஜஸ். இல்லைன்னா இப்போதைக்கு எப்படி போயிட்டு இருக்குன்னா அது ரொம்ப நமக்கு சுத்தி சுத்தி தான் போயிட்டு இருக்கு. யூ கேன் சி இப்போதைக்கு எப்படி போயிட்டு இருக்குன்னா இந்தியாவில் இந்த ரூட்ல போயிட்டு இருக்கு. அப்படி இல்லையா சி ரூட்ல தான் பிரைமரியா போயிட்டு இருக்கு, இல்லையா ஆப்பிரிக்காவை சுத்தி அப்படி போயிட்டு இருக்கு. ஸோ யூ கேன் சி த டிஸ்டன்ஸ், டைம், எனர்ஜி சேவ்ட் ஒன்ஸ் வி புட் அப் corridors like INSTC as well as Ashgabat. Right now, what are the Ashgabat countries? Abdin pathina, remember there are 3 Central Asian countries: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. TUK, TUK, TUKங்கிற வார்த்தை ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. அதை தாண்டி வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா easy to remember Iran, India, Pakistan easy to remember. அதை தாண்டி ஒரு country மட்டும் ஓமான், இதை மட்டும் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கணும். எப்படியாது இந்த ஓமான்ங்கிறது இங்க இருக்கு, as you can see, right? அதே மாதிரி ஐஎன்எஸ்டிசியோட ஃபவுண்டிங் கண்ட்ரிஸ் வர் 3: இந்தியா, ஈரான் அண்ட் ரஷ்யா. ஓகே, அதை தாண்டி நீங்க வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா டர்க்கி இருக்கு. நான் சொன்னேன் டர்க்கி வந்து இட் ஹெல்ப்ஸ் அஸ் ஆக்சஸ் வெஸ்டர்ன் யூரோப். யுக்ரைன் அண்ட் பெலரூஸ் ஹெல்ப்ஸ் அஸ் ஆக்சஸ் ஈஸ்டர்ன் யூரோப் பிகாஸ் தே ஆர் நெய்பர்ஸ் ஆஃப் ரஷ்யா. ஒமான் சேம் கண்ட்ரி ரிப்பீட் ஆகுது. சிரியா ஒன்று மட்டும் நம்ம ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கணும். அதை தாண்டி பாத்தீங்கன்னா அசர்பைஜான், அர்மீனியா, இது ரெண்டு நியூஸ்ல இருக்கு, அதனால எப்படி இருந்தாலும் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்குவீங்க. அண்ட் வில் லுக் அட் இட் இன் மச் மோர் டீடைல், ஸோ இட் ஸ்டேஸ் அ பார்ட் ஆஃப் யுவர் மெமரி. அதை தாண்டி 3 சென்ட்ரல் ஏஷியன் கண்ட்ரிஸ் இருக்காங்க. இங்க ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க, கசக்ஸ்தான், கிர்கிஸ்தான், தஜிகிஸ்தான். அங்க டுக்கு, இங்க டிகேகே. ஓகே, அங்க டுக்கு, இங்க வந்து டிகேகே. ஓகே, டுக் டிகேகே அப்படி ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. ஐஎன்எஸ்டிசினா டிகேகே, அஷ்காபாத்னா டுக். So we are going to end today's topic. For the next episode of Snapshots, we will look at Azerbaijan and Armenia issue. What exactly is the issue going on now, so that we get a more grip of international relations and how it is so intertwined, and we live in a globally interconnected world. Before I take off, I would like to end with this quote by Hans Morgenthau, who said, "In international relations, there are no permanent friends or foes, but only national interests." And that simply means it's going to be based on negotiation, hard talk, dialogue, and diplomacy, right? And I hope we can start looking at issues with such a perspective, which will easily make you get to prelims, mains, and also make you an effective bureaucrat in future, right? And I wish you all the best. Thank you and have a good day. Signing off from KPR IAS Academy.